What is good, internet? It is Spirit of Paradox here, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing part 3 of the Dark Ultimates, or issue 27 of Ultimate Comics The Ultimates. Now you understand why I call it the Dark Ultimates. But I have got to say here now, you are not ready for this issue. If you do not like gore, do not watch this video. I will understand. If you do not like gore and blood, this is not the video for you to watch. But if you are a Marvel reader and you have not read this issue, you are not ready for this issue. I'm telling you right now. So, without further ado, let's start part 3 of the Dark Ultimates. We begin with the Maker doing an autopsy on Antonio Stark's brain, and he says, "Antonio Stark, I used to read about you before you were like 5 years older than me, and God, I wanted to be you, you know? I thought, if that kid could do it, so could I. But truth be told, you made instruments of death. I give life. I'm making a gateway to the future." And as Tony Stark struggles to talk, he says, "Reed, I want you to listen to me. You're one of the smartest people on the planet. Stop and think about what you're doing here, please." We see the Maker multitasking as he's doing the autopsy. Half of his face is working on computer screens on the other side of it, making extra limbs, and the rest of him is making extra limbs working on his brain. And the Maker says, "Oh, come on, Tony. We're all past that now. We're standing on a precipice of all reality hinges on the decisions we make. Correction, I make." And Tony says, "You're completely insane. Sometimes I wish I was." How Tony manages to talk through this, I have no idea. He says, "Everything that's been thrown at this planet, it survived. The Cosmic Cube, Galactus, the Ultimatum Wave, your doomsday. You're not going to And as that happens, the Maker slips one of the scalpels into Tony's brain and says, "Oops, I slipped. I just nicked your..." Hold on.
Glossopharyngeal
"Nerve. You may have trouble not choking to death, but don't worry. I'll keep you alive." As Tony starts to choke, the Maker says, "Where was I? I wish I could share the things that I've learned with you, Tony. I do. It's become very lonely. If it wasn't for Kang, I'd have nobody to talk to. And frankly, she was never my intellectual equal. Almost done in here. Should be fixed up and right as rain." As Antonio struggles to talk, he says, "Terrific. This isn't necessary, Reed. You know me. You know that I care about protecting the world. Everything I've done has been about saving." And in the middle of speaking, the Maker just pops the Infinity Gem out of his brain and says, "Tony, please. Your very thoughts are so toxic, your brain birthed an Infinity Gem." As Tony says, "What?" Then the Maker reveals, "Didn't you know? Your talking tumor was the last Infinity Gem, rattling around in that empty skull of yours." As Tony says, "How is that possible?" the Maker responds, "Well, that's a story." The next page we go back to the battle between Thor and the Hulk, and Thor says, "By Odin's beard." "Tell me about it, Thunder God." Thor says, "Does our fight continue? Are you still standing? No matter how you strike, Banner, I will rise up again. 'Tis my way." "Well then, game on," the Hulk says. As Thor readies for battle, he says, "I have lost much in the last year, and I have not had much chance to work out my frustrations." And the Hulk responds, "Yeah, well, cry me a river, Blondie. All I ever did was try to save the world, to get you morons to do what needed to be done, and look where that got me." As Thor charges up, he says, "You massacred how many thousands, Banner? You'll get no quarter from me," as he gives Hulk his God Blast. We go back to the fight between the Thing and the Maker, and the Thing blasts him and says, "I'm sorry, Reed," dealing a finishing blow. After the battle finishes, the Thing says to Susan, "I didn't want to hurt him. He gave us no choice, Ben." "I know, Susie. The dummy didn't know what he was doing." "He knew. He's known all along." And then we see the Thing and the Invisible Woman make out. The Maker reveals, and somewhat a teaser to the Maker clones across the multiverse, "Do you think I'd spoiled the moment if they knew they were just fighting a small segment of my body that I grew into a full-size replica?" Iron Man says, "God, you're an obnoxious little twerp. How did the gem get into my brain?" See, that's what I've been asking myself. Why you? Maybe you're destined to be the savior of mankind. So the universe put a rock in my brain? Ugh, I'm getting there. But first, Quicksilver. Please go incapacitate my ex-girlfriend and my former best friend. Yes, with pleasure. Now, this part is very important, people, because this part explains the Ultimate Universe and its place within the multiverse. The Maker reveals, multiverse, right? Stacks of universes, like skin. Oldest on top, newest underneath. Theoretically, infinite. And once a universe is born, it begins to die, to contract. But it doesn't contract evenly. If you map the layered multiverse, then you see we are at the center. Tony says, "Yeah, I suppose all known and understood data could be wrong. The universe's death is progressive, Tony. It dies the faster, the closer to death it becomes. Unless you find the treatment gems. They're formed from uphills in reality. So Sue was right. They're white blood cells." Figures a biologist would simplify it like that. I studied the negative zone. They, it seems, had one of these extinction events. What happened was unclear, but entire star systems were consumed. Planets disappeared in masses. Only a handful of planets that supported life remained, including the counter to our planet. And on that planet, there was a scientist, a genius, and me. He found the Infinity Gauntlet, and he focused his genius on stopping the apocalypse. But it was too late. The damage was done, and his universe entered a spiral of heat death. "So, your theory is what? You can do better?" Tony says. "No, I can do it sooner. I helped create the last stone. I started a chain reaction with my doomsday attack. By my estimate, we're several thousand years ahead of schedule, and I'll be able to use the gems and save us all. And what says our universe won't find itself spiraling into heat death too?" Fair point. I'm smarter than my counterpart. And what happened to your genius counterpart? That's the really amazing part, Tony. He was transformed. He became a new type of entity. A being capable of existing in all layers of reality simultaneously. Unable to act, save, to observe, and talk. Then we find out his negative zone counterpart became the Watcher of the Ultimate Universe. And then we see the Maker say, "Now I'm going to do it better, and I can save the universe, Tony." And in Tony Stark fashion, "Hold on, so you save the universe and get turned into a talking eye on a stick?" Kang has assured me this is not the case. She has seen the future and knows what will happen to me. I'm sure she would not let me come to harm. "Once I have the last stone," and Tony interrupts and says, "It's buried in the center of the earth, Reed. I have an army of hyper-intelligent Hybertrons digging around the clock. I will find it. Once I solve the overheating problem, which, correct me if I'm wrong, your various thermal dampening patents should aid me well with. And then Tony says, I made sure you'll never get them. In any event, I'll have all 8 stones, and then everyone will see. Yes, they certainly will. And so, pardon my ramble. That is why I am here, and you are there. And soon, you will not be. Well, you're completely bonkers. I mean, like, you're crazy and all that, but fuck. You think you're meant to be some what? Pan-dimensional god? Read, please. What you're doing can't possibly work. It doesn't make any sense. Your so-called predecessor didn't save his universe. The negative zone is dying. You said so yourself. So maybe he was spared to warn us. Please, let me help you. The Maker gets frustrated and says, no more talking, Tony, and then pulls a piece of his brain out. Tony says, I don't want to die, and then the Maker tells him, there, that will keep you quiet for a while. In the next page we go to elsewhere, and we see Captain America, and he says, Clint, you waking up? And then we hear Clint say, so bright, my eyes, Steve, there's something wrong. I'm seeing wavelengths that don't exist. The light here, it's, where are we? And Captain America says, it's not bright in here, Clint. What did they do to my eyes? Kang enters the cell and says, aside from our fight, nothing. The light here has unique qualities that render your visual enhancements useless. And Captain America says, what the hell are you supposed to be? Steve, I'm a lady, please. Clint says, that thing is no lady. Mr. Barton, you and your friends are going to get pretty cozy in here. I'd think keeping your manners and class. Captain America says, lady, I've had enough. And then he grabs her by the throat and says, where are we and how do we get home? Please, Captain, you're embarrassing yourself. As Kang manages to disintegrate into thin air, Captain America says, damn it, where? And then Kang manages to reconstruct her foot and then starts kicking the crap out of Steve. As he says, let's not do this now. Captain America tries to get up and says, you can't keep us in here. No cage can stop us. As Kang starts to leave the cell room, she says, I'm sure, but to be fair, this is a very big cage. Captain America shouts, get back here, as Kang is making her escape, and she says, welcome. And then Captain America starts to see outside and says, what the hell? As Kang says, welcome to the negative zone. In the next page we go to Monica Chang being woken up by Nick Fury. For those of you who don't remember, Quicksilver took Tony Stark and brought him back to the Maker's facility, but he left Monica Chang in the SHIELD facility in the last issue. Nick Fury says, come on Monica, it's time to wake up. As she starts to do so, she says, what? Fury tells her, hello Director Chang, how are things? Monica says, I died and I'm in hell, right? Fury reassures her and says, no, you got knocked unconscious by Quicksilver and gave our genius to their genius. Now, are you ready to kick Reed Richards' ass for the last time? Monica says to Fury, like, that's going to take an army. You're going to open that door and show me an army, aren't you? And Fury's like, nah, that's not my style. I got something better. Then Fury reveals to Monica his new Howling Commandos, and he has a pretty solid team. He's got the Punisher, Falcon, Giant Woman, Dum Dum Dugan, Emil Blonsky, who doesn't actually turn into the Abomination in this. That's one downside to this comic. He actually isn't the Abomination. And we got Ghost, and I think I said Hercules already. Monica asks, who's the drunk guy? And Fury reveals to her and says, you're going up against a lunatic with godlike powers. Thor's a shadow of his former self, so I thought you could use a god of your own. Monica Chang, meet the son of Zeus. You've got to be kidding me. Hercules? Well, why not? Okay, team. In the next page we go back to the thing with Susan, and he says, I can't reach the base. Susan says, wait, what's that? And before they realize, it's Quicksilver who's come to incapacitate them. Susan shouts, look out, it's Quicksilver. Susan tries to build up a force field as quickly as possible before Quicksilver can do any damage to her, but she's just not quick enough. Quicksilver comes in and does really quick attacks towards her, and the thing can't do anything. He shouts out for Susan, and she shouts out, what is he doing? It burns. Oh God. After Quicksilver defeats the Invisible Woman, he says, you know when you lick an envelope and cut your tongue on the edge? I just did that a few million times, revealing he just gave her a few million paper cuts, so that must really hurt. The thing says, buddy, you ain't fast enough as you think. Quicksilver goes in for the attack and chips away at the thing's hide and says, I assure you, I am. Susan calls out for Ben, but before Ben could even swing for Quicksilver, he's already been defeated. So Quicksilver did the job. He incapacitated both of them. In quick time too. The Maker was watching the entire fight go down, and he says, and that's that now. Tony tries to say, we'll stop you. Ah, Tony. That's the can-do attitude I was looking for. Let's play a game. You tell me how you're going to win, and I'll tell you how you're wrong. And Tony says, Thor. I believe he's about to get smashed actually. Doesn't matter. In the next page we see the Dark Ultimates overcoming the heroes, like Ultimate Hulk wielding Ultimate Mjolnir, getting ready to defeat Thor with it. And Iron Man is debating with the Maker at the same time. And the Maker says, oh no, it very much matters. Without his godhood, Thor is just a man in a power suit. Listen to me, Richards, this isn't over. We will fight. We will stand up. Tony, hardly any of you are physically capable of standing up right now. Joke? Fine. Underestimate us. We fought invasions and monsters, vampires and clones, and we've always won. We will destroy you, Reed. That's the thing about us. Well, you're right. We are stupid, Reed. We're too stupid to know when we're beaten. So we're never gonna give up. The Maker interrupts Tony and says, oh, sorry. I turned off the oxygen pump before you could finish your keen speech. I severed everything below the C1, C2. Your heart is stopped. Your lungs have stopped. And well, goodbye, Antonio Stark. It's been a pleasure. As the Maker starts to leave and no one there to save Tony Stark, only a few seconds until his heart monitor stops beeping. And this, people, is the death of Ultimate Iron Man. Yes, people, that was Dark Ultimates Part 3. And when I told you they made some ballsy decisions in this story, I weren't joking. So I guess you probably want to know what happens next, right? Well, you gotta wait till next week. But in the meantime, make sure you drop a like if you're enjoying the videos, if you're enjoying the Dark Ultimates, and make sure you subscribe if you're fans of the Ultimate Universe. We are going to be uploading content surrounding the Ultimate Universe as a lead up to the upcoming event, Ultimate Invasion, that drops this June 21st, and I will also be covering it the moment it gets released. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a nice day, and I will see you in the next one.